Hey guys, welcome to Cars and Health Bars. On today's episode, we are joined by Isaac, the Ford technician. I would say, what are you, a senior master yet? Or are you just
My tenure is at the very beginning of 2025. So January, February, I'll be labeled as a senior master technician.
Okay, well there you go. We have with us a nearly senior master transmission tech at Ford and also partial owner of SKR 270. And if you haven't followed him on TikTok, of course, that's all we've been talking about the last two episodes. Of course, this is one of the masterminds behind the TikTok page that's really taken off for how recently it started. How are you doing, Isaac?
I'm doing all right. I'm, trying to stay warm, but aside from that, man, I couldn't be any better.
Definitely. I know with you being a big bike guy too, it's a rough time of year.
Dude, I wish my bike was back together. I tore it apart for a project, and I haven't done anything to it for about 2 or 3 weeks.
Sounds about that's the way it goes. You think you got a little project, and then it turns into everything else, nickel and dime. Find problems.
Been there.
It's just been a steady slope. It started off as a oil leak and then it transitioned to wiring issues. The last day I rode it was with Jordan and one of our buddies, Zach from Ford, and it had a charging issue. I was going over the interstate and it lost all electronics, and I thought my battery was about to die on me, and so I was panicking about it. Jordan rode with me back to my house to make sure I was able to get the bike back there because I didn't think I was going to be able to make it back home.
Jeez.
Luckily, it did good. The last day I was riding it. It did phenomenal. I was very pleased with the bike, but it's time I finally went through and just redid everything top to bottom.
Yeah, that's always that's a good thing to do, especially that way it's right. Don't give out on you, at an ideal time.
Like an LS.
Oh my God. Very less than ideal for you.
Man, it was phenomenal for the page, though. I'll give the Camaro props. It blowing up allowed the page to blow up, so it walked so we could run.
There you go.
Yeah, definitely. If there's one thing that gets clicks, that is blown up stuff.
All right, that's S10.
Yeah, S10 time.
4L60 or 2.2. We don't know yet.
I mean, the same thing happened with my T-case. I mean, I posted my T-case broken in half, and it got like 4,000 views. I was like, geez, people really love to see stuff getting destroyed. I want to get back on your specialty a little bit. Of course, I have a few questions for fans and a few questions of my own, and I just kind of threw them all together. So I want to know what got you into like working with transmissions specifically. Like, what drew you into specializing in transmissions? Because as a person who gets work done on my vehicles, it seems like transmission techs are a dying breed, especially ones that aren't at a dealer. And as a person on the outside looking in, I kind of wonder, what draws somebody to transmissions, because they just look like big puzzles to me.
At the end of the day, they are. It's a very complex system to anybody, to even myself. But I wasn't really drawn into it at first when I started off my automotive career. In the beginning of high school, I started working at Capital City in Indianapolis, and I'll tell you what, I'll just be honest, I was a useless tech. I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. They had me with the chassis and suspension master tech, and I more or less just held a flashlight for him. I wasn't any more useful than just holding a flashlight. He got tired of me, which I don't blame him. I got sent over to the electrical tech. Didn't really make sense of it. So I left him and ended up with the transmission tech over at Capital City. And that kind of gave me a wake-up call. Just to put in perspective, in high school, I was 120 pounds, soaking wet. Had no weight to me, nothing. And the senior master transmission tech there is a big Greek guy named George. Dude, George, he'd been doing transmissions for 25 plus years. He had his own shop, and then he went to a dealership, worked circles around me. And at the time, I did not understand anything about transmissions. He tried showing me. He tried like hell to show me how to do transmissions, and I kind of picked it up, but I wasn't fully grasping the fundamentals of it. And then After that experience, I went through Ford Asset, which is Ford's accelerated learning program. Got certified in just about everything aside from hybrids because Parkland didn't offer hybrid class at the time. And then went to my second dealership in Illinois. Over there, I did more diesels, but I was starting to pull a lot of transmissions for them. And I was kind of enjoying it. At the same time, I was forcing myself not to do transmission works. I didn't want to do it. It somehow kept ending up with me, though. And then when I came out here to Greenwood, they asked me if I had any real experience doing anything. The only thing I'd really done was transmissions. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to embrace it at this point and really start moving forward with this. And it's kind of just taken off from there.
So you're one of the only transmission techs out there, I take it.
There's not a lot of us. In the dealership world, there's more. But as far as outside of that, I don't really know many. All the people I know that went through Asset with me and some of the other kids at the other dealers, because it was all kind of connected. You know, we got to see the upper classmates and the lower classmen come in. And so we kind of all kept in touch to a little bit. And from what I've heard, none of them really went with transmissions. It was either engine performance, diesel, or hybrid electrical. Nobody really went with transmission. So it's kind of a niche group.
Right. I mean, what kind of certifications and like training? I know you said you had to do a lot of courses and stuff before you came. Was it pretty strenuous, the extra amount of certifications you had to get to be able to work on transmissions?
It is. If you haven't really experienced transmissions, you don't know what you're messing with. It really messes with your mind. Just not even the components of the transmission, but the seals and everything that's internal, that how it's all supposed to go in as one way. And so it's very much a precise puzzle.
Yeah, I think, which I had a 400 rebuilt, I think beginning of last year, and I was told by the guy that I purchased it off of that he had freshly rebuilt it. Well, you know, me and Jordan put it in the car and nothing would spin at all. Like it was completely locked up. So we sent it off to have it rebuilt or looked at, and turned out he had seals in backwards and like everything was just completely wrong. And he was like, "Yeah, somebody put this together. I had no idea what they were doing."
Yep. It's it's extremely easy to pinch a seal as well. And in the dealership, as far as warranty goes, it kind of, you don't really know you have everything correct until it's already in the vehicle and you can start testing it. You know, you can do air pressure checks with the valve body out and just checking, make sure clutches are applied. It's a good way to tell if all the seals are there. Otherwise, you'll have leakage. But aside from that, you know, you got to have the vehicle running to know what's engaging, what's not engaging.
Yeah.
First starting at Greenwood, they had me under the senior master transmission tech there, and Greenwood had another transmission tech. He's off. He's deployed right now. But right before he left, he did a 10-speed on an F-150, and he rushed in it. So, you know, like anybody else, if you're rushed to do something, you're more than likely to make a mistake. And he had put in one of the clutch packs upside down. He put a clutch in backwards. And in turn, it didn't have, I think it only had 5th through 9th. I can't remember off the top of my head. But we weren't getting engagements within certain gears. So we pulled it back in, we pulled it apart, found a clutch was in upside down. Flipped a clutch back around, repaired it, replaced what needed to be done, test drove it again, and we weren't getting 10th gear. It would not engage in 10th gear. So we had to pull it back out, tear it apart, and inspect it, and we ended up finding that the E-clutch piston was cracked from a clutch being put in backwards.
Jeez.
And so we didn't catch that until we figured out we weren't getting 10th gear.
Nice.
That's
And
crazy.
it was warranty, so, you know, that's gotta be nice.
Yeah. Well, it was. I wasn't having to worry about the pay on that so much just because I was underneath the other tech, so I was still in my 2-week grace period. I know he was stressing a little bit, but nothing crazy. He had, you know, he's done this more years than I've been alive, so he wasn't worried about it.
So Bruce is just like other day.
So you've seen the 10 speeds. Have you seen the transmissions before that? I'm guessing like, the 6 and 8 speeds. With it being like 10 speed, what are like some unique what's so unique about the 10 speed compared to like the older designs?
4 extra gears.
Yeah, simply put.
They put better.
Extra planetary, ain't it? That's
Yep.
really all.
Well, the one thing I remember from taking the transmission course, because it's been a couple of years, was the 10 speed is a Ravana style system, which is a complex series of transmissions. Whereas, if I remember correctly, the 6R80 and prior is not. And it just means that there's more components to the transmission. If I am saying that wrong, then I'm openly to be corrected, because it's just been a minute since I've looked back on that.
That is one thing that I've seen with the 10 speeds, though. A lot of the guys like Midnight Performance and the guys who are building these like 1,000 wheel and 50s is they're taking the 10 speed and they're sending it directly to, I can't remember the transmission shop they go through to have it built before they even run it in the truck because, it just won't handle that power. Is that something that you've seen? Because, I mean, I've seen especially GM guys try to push a factory transmission well past what it's supposed to be. It doesn't seem like very many Ford people are wanting to do that with the factory 10 speed, and maybe they are, and I'm just not seeing it.
You can push a good amount of power with the 10 speeds. I mean, Ford offers, the supercharger kits for the Mustangs and the F-150s that are still backed by a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. So it's not like it's the best warranty coverage, but it's enough of Ford saying, hey, these can handle that kind of power, just do with it what you will. I don't think the 10 speeds are quite as strong as the 6R80. Put in a different style converter, and you can kind of run that 700, 800 horse, in my opinion, without too much struggle. But as well with the 10 speeds, you can do that with a bone stock Mustang, just throw on a Whipple. But issue you run in with the 10 speeds that Ford's kind of addressed 2020 and up is the CDF drum, which has a bushing inside of it it'll shift, allowing fluid leakage. And so it's what's causing kind of the typical 10R80 issues of harsh engagements, harsh upshift, harsh downshift, delayed shifts. And that in turn, it'll send a little bit of debris through the system, which will in turn mess everything else up because now it has this clutch debris and everything else that's trying to fight, which can, score up the valve body, the pistons or the valves in the valve body that get caught up. And so you'll have a bunch of fluid pressure behind it and it'll just slam it into gear.
Ugh.
And some of these, it feels like you're getting rear-ended, like you just got into a car accident.
I remember that was literally a complaint.
That's what it felt like whenever my 6L80 was going out. Like I would come to a complete stop and it would just like ram itself into gear. I'm like, holy crap! Like that was rough. Speaking of like common issues, what are like you work at a dealer, so I mean, what are the most common transmission problems you encounter in like the Ford vehicles that come through the lot?
It's harsh engagement, just the tip.
Oh yeah.
Just all in our 80s, they have harsh engagement. So Ford's TSB, to chase after that, they updated it since. So it's kind of the 21 and up models. So the new facelifted F50s. Prior to the facelifted F1, it was a dual reprogram. So there's a transmission strategy and a strategy ID for the valve body. You would re-input that into the computer to show the computer what valve body it has in it. And then you would clear the adaptive learn. So it's clearing these shift tables, letting the transmission relearn how the valves are supposed to actuate and when it's supposed to shift. Drove the vehicle, it wants you to drive for an extended period of time. If it's still showing the symptoms that the customer is complaining of harsh engagement, upshift, and or downshift, Ford has you pull out the valve body, inspect the valve body, and see if there's any scoring in any of the valves, and see, hey, can the valve body be overhauled, or is there too much scoring to the housing of the valves to where we can't rebuild it, we got to replace it. 9 times out of 10 anymore, it's just to replace the valve body, because it's kind of a waste of time to necessarily overhaul it just to find that it needs to be replaced. And the customers at the same time want their vehicles back because, they just spent $60,000 on this F-150. It should not be shifting this rough.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to get your thoughts on one thing. We were actually talking about this over Christmas. CVTs. I kind of want to get your thoughts on where CVTs are, because I feel like a lot of people got really scared of CVTs, especially in like the early, like I would say 2010 ish cars, because a lot of people in like the Nissans are having a lot of problems. I know my grandmother, she had a Rogue, its CVT went out. I kind of want to get your thoughts on it, and why maybe people should or shouldn't be scared of them, because it seems like they made a lot of advancements in like these past few years, several years, I would say.
As far as CVTs go, I haven't really torn any apart. I haven't rebuilt any. I can't speak too much on them, just from aside from what I've heard, as well as you've heard of, regarding Nissan transmissions being kind of junk and screwing over customers. As far as Ford's vehicles, so Ford mainly uses CVTs on the hybrid aspect of things. And as far as on the hybrid side of these, I haven't seen too many issues with these transmissions. Most of the transmissions that I've seen that have had failures per CVT with these hybrids have had over 200,000 miles on them. And at this point, it's not necessarily transmission that's failing, it's the differential inside the transmission. The bearing is going out. And so it's pretty much just putting in new bearings, but getting the correct stems for it, as from what I've seen, is kind of difficult.
The bearings are a good safety net. I mean, it's always good to hear that a bearing is what's going out, because I mean that's the first thing you want to go out instead of like grenading everything.
It is, but it isn't, just because with those CVTs you have to split the transmission case. There's no ifs or buts. It's a remove the transmission, split the case. So it's not a procedure for the faint of heart.
I want to get a few more just like kind of easier questions out of the way before we move to the SKR stuff. So this is kind of the age-old question, and I know me and Jordan spoke about it quite often, but as far as changing your transmission fluid goes, it seems like, as far as mechanics go, they tell other people, between 60 and 100,000, if you're going to change it in that window, or don't bother with it at all. As a transmission technician, a certified transmission technician, what are your thoughts on that statement as far as changing your oil in your transmission, if you're going to, and if you should or should not?
I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of stick to that same route. Very much, because we see several transmissions that come into the shop and they want a transmission flush, and we'll ask them, hey, are you having any issues with this thing whatsoever? Or at least if I can catch it, I ask them the question, verify how many miles are on the vehicle, and I try, either A, save them a little bit of money, or B, if they're persistent on doing it, at least let them know, hey, there's a good possibility that flushing this could cause a little bit of debris to get broken up and possibly get sent through the transmission, causing some issues that we'll have to address. I've seen a couple come through the shop that the vehicle's having no issues, and then it got flushed, and now it's having these engagement issues. And they had over, I want to say, 130,000 to 50,000 miles. But most of the transmissions that we're getting in that are having issues with the valve body, the harsh engagements, every time we drop the pan, we put new fluid in it, we flush the system. So it's consistently getting new fluid before it needs to. And then after that, you don't really see too many issues with them.
Yeah, it seems like everyone that I've seen do a trans flush, beyond 100,000, maybe even 150,000 miles, it never goes well. There's just stuff gets brought up and it just grenades the transmission.
You always got that one guy. He's like at 200K, he's like, my transmission shit's weird, I'm gonna change the fluid.
No, buddy, you ride that ticking time bomb out.
I'm at the point with my truck, I have 80,000 on it, and I really want to do a transmission flush on it just before that 100,000 mile mark. But I keep going back and forth on it because I'm like, well, this thing shifts great. I don't have any issues with it. But the chances of me having issues after the fact constantly, that's something that's always in my mind right now. Just every time I drive it is just, should I do the service on it? I'll probably end up doing it just because I've done everything else to it. I've changed everything else on it. I'm probably going to end up doing it, and if it bites me in the ass, it does. I've been looking for an excuse to kind of tear that transmission out because I kind of want to build it.
Does your truck have 8-speed
fluid? I put fluid in that S10, and it's still trucking.
I know. No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I was wanting to know if your truck had the 10-speed in it.
It does not. It's still got the 6-speed 6R80.
Okay, I see.
But the 10-speed and the F-150s didn't come out till 2017, and they was only available in, I think, the 3.5s and the 2.7s. The 5-liter didn't get speed till 2018.
You know, one thing I was watching, it was a very particular Mustang. It was I believe it was a Code Red, if that sounds familiar. I could be okay, yeah. And this might be something that is already like happening in the automotive industry, but like they were talking about boost by gear. I'm like, what? I'm like, that just sounds so cool. Like, I don't know. It just that whole car and how many like units were made. I think it was like 200K just for the like package you had to buy the donor car. I'm like, golly, that's like the Hennessy version of like Ford.
It's insane. The Code Red, I very much it's a work of engineering, but boost by gear, I know they've been doing that for a little while. Calvo Motorsports has been doing Vipers, and I know I don't remember the name of the company, but they've been doing it on the big tuners of the Nissan GTRs, the R35 platform, have been doing boost by gear as well, and then Underground Racing does it on their Lamborghinis and their Audis. So it's a cool thing that's been around. I don't know how long it's been around. I know it's been around for a couple of years, but big change as far as performance industry, just because it's an amazement to me, I guess, how they're able to do that, and just feeling the adrenaline rush of each gear.
Yeah.
Power.
It gives that gear extra pull. It's like, oh man, there it is. I want to get into a little bit of. I know from talking to you, you've worked around some pretty, I wouldn't say exotic, but some really sweet cars whenever you were working up in Indy. I kind of want you to talk. Maybe you have some stories about whenever you were working up in Champaign and being around a GT, Ford GT, and all that cool stuff.
Yeah. So Indy, I got a couple cool classics out there. I didn't get to with too much. I didn't even get to touch the Ford GTs in Champaign just because I wasn't really experienced enough yet. And then at the time, they had two main techs out there that, well, technically three, that if anything pricey came in, it went to them, and it went to them alone, which is understandable. They've made the reputation for themselves. At Capital City, we got in a 1968 GT500. That was seeing a hero car. That was
real.
See that
once in a lifetime.
Costs as much as a house.
The owner of Capital City, Bob Thomas, the Capital City in Indianapolis, because they have two of them now. That was the one I was at, and on site he has his own personal car collection in a storage building right beside the dealer, kind of offset to the body shop. And every now and again, while I was under the transmission tech out there, we would do some of Bob Thomas's personal cars. I got to go over there and actually check out his personal collection of vehicles, and that was, to a kid in high school, that was like heaven's gates opening up. He had a original Boss 302 Mustang in like canary yellow, phenomenal car. He had a Jaguar E-Type in there, just some pristine vehicles. Several Aston Martins, a couple Ferraris. He had it all.
Had the exotics out there.
Yeah.
One thing about him though, he was a very down to earth person. My Mustang that I got was originally ordered to Capital City, and I've heard stories about it through this person I met from Indianapolis, whose late husband had a 05 Ford GT that he pretty much daily drove. His 05 GT was his daily driver. He took it over to Capital City for servicing several times, and he actually got to know the owner, Bob Thomas, rather well. And Bob Thomas was a very much down-to-earth person. He would consistently walk through the shop. He'd come ask you how your day was. With most dealers, you never see the owner of the dealer. To them, you're just to Bob Thomas, you were a person. That was something that I've kind of found lacking with other dealers.
Yeah, that's it really hits home for the owner just to come out and be like, "Hey man, how's your day?" Even like you said, a simple like, "How's your day going?" It just really shows you that they're human and they care, They don't have to go out of their way and say something to you. It brings some humility into the situation.
I agree. Then with Champaign City, we got some cool cars out there. We had a big performance division out there. We had one guy in the shop. We specialized in making the lowered single cab short bed supercharged F-150s, and we did our own little special thing to them. We'd put our own badging on them, FCP badging on the side, Ford City Performance, different wheels, different headlights, taillights. We kind of just do a little bit of the exterior packaging. Nothing that was really too expensive, but it kind of added our own styling to it. We did a couple unique builds on it. Like we did a lowered 4-door regular bed F-150 that our shop foreman drove. That thing, phenomenal.
And that's cool. Shop trucks are the best.
We got in a couple Vipers, a couple Terminators too, some very clean Terminators.
That's where it's at.
He'd get in some cool stuff.
I love these people now that are obsessed with like Hellcat blower wine. It's like y'all don't remember what that 04 Termy wine was like. That was a whole different type of wine.
So we had Cars and Coffee out there. It was in Mahomet, which is the town next over from Champaign. It was about a 15-minute drive. There were a couple mornings, because I briefly lived out in Mahomet, that I would catch him going down the interstate in some of the showroom cars, because he'd take them to Cars and Coffee. So there was one morning I caught him out in a Terminator. Next weekend after is in a Viper. He was always out with these things to show them off and sell them. And he made a lot of good business that way.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I know people that like go to Rod Run and they'll either pick something up there or sell something there. That's a pretty cool way of doing business, just like selling your builds at Cars and Coffees. That's dope.
I think it's very unique and a very good approach to it.
It is. I mean, everything's on display, and you brought it to them. That's pretty cool. That's a good idea.
And then we also had Jimmy John, the man, the myth, the legend. We had personal Ford GTs there for service. We had his 06 Heritage, a Gulf Coast Heritage Edition that only had like 300 miles on it. It was just there for an oil change. That was another hero car that I didn't really think I'd get to see up close, but oh man.
That's like my dream car.
His other GT is a exposed carbon fiber GT. So a 2018, 2019 Ford GT came in for an oil change as well. I think we spent most of the day trying to figure out how to get the oil for it, because Ford being Ford, they have their own, they take pride in making, trying to think of the word for it.
Their own blend?
Their own blend of things, yes.
I see.
So the Ford GT runs 5W50 Castrol oil that's only for the Ford GT, which at the end of the day, it's a 3.5 EcoBoost that's turned up a little bit. Not discrediting the car. It's a phenomenal car with the amount of engineering that goes into it. Just the motor, I think, could have been something else. So we tried to acquire the oil. We got told no. We tried to figure out why we were told no. And essentially what it came down to was there was only 2 dealers in the state of Illinois that can service those Ford GTs, because you have to be registered as a concierge of a dealer to sell the GT. If you can't sell the GT, you can't work on the GT. It doesn't matter if you're GT certified or not.
Got that exclusivity.
Exactly. And they told us if they were to sell us a wiper blade, a nut, anything that was pertaining to that car, it would void the warranty entirely. No question.
Oh my God. That's insane.
Yeah. So we had to explain that to, Jimmy John. He was rather irritated, not necessarily at us, just how stupid that was, because he either had to go to what was it? I think it's El Paso, Illinois. It's a little up north. Might be Bloomington, Illinois. So that's about maybe an hour-ish north. Or he had to go all the way to Chicago to go get his Ford GT serviced.
Yeah, I'd be pretty irritated too. I mean, time is money to that guy, especially that guy.
Right? You spend that amount of money on a car, you should be able to take it to any Ford dealer.
Right, it's your car. I mean, you should be the one calling the shots. Like if he wanted to put for 030 in there at Jim Bob's Backyard Mechanic.
I understand it to a degree, to make you're not trying to scam Ford out of God knows how much money they spent on developing that car just to have to warranty out a motor or something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a little nitpicky.
Definitely.
I'm rather curious to see their stipulations on the Mustang GTD and what kind of warranty and what dealers can service it.
Yeah, I mean we're closing in on the GTD being released, aren't we?
I believe so. It's coming this year, or not this year, but 2025.
Right. Yeah, that'll be exciting to see at the dealer. I can't wait to see one come to y'all's lot just to get a look at. I'm sure. I mean, it's just gonna be a little bit more of a souped up 650, but I mean, just to be cool.
We're gonna have one.
Oh, y'all won't?
I'm rather doubtful we will. I know the one in Champaign City or Champaign Forest City, the dealer in Illinois. I know they got allocated one. I don't know about our dealer here in Bowling Green. I'm rather doubtful unless the Renshaws decided to buy one.
Or it's like special ordered with somebody in Bowling Green.
I'm rather doubtful somebody in Bowling Green will buy one. I don't think and I hate to say this about our dealer, I don't think our sales department's up to that.
Huh. Fair enough.
They're lucky to sell a C7.
That's rough. That's really, really rough. I want to change gears a little bit to I want to hit on the SKR stuff before we run out of time here. I want to know, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, what inspired you and, partial owner David to start the Southern Kentucky Racing page on TikTok?
Well, we were kind of, I think it was at a point that we were kind of tired of the dealer to a degree, seeing everybody else living their own dreams, being able to build these cars, have fun with them, and just their job is just to talk about it, enjoy it, potentially break it, and then just to do it all over again and just having fun, building that connection with friends, different people, expanding the hobby and the joy of what it brings. And we kind of talked about back and forth, and we were like, realistically, the amount of people in here that, we all to a degree have a muscle car, a bike, something that's not necessarily unique, but it's not normal traffic.
Right.
We're like, all these other people are able to do this. What's stopping us from doing this? And we're like, you know what? What's the worst thing that happens? We don't blow up. We don't take off. Well, whatever. At the end of the day, we tried. And so we kind of sat down for a couple days, running it past Jordan and running it past other people in the shop. We're like, hey, what do you think of this name? What do you think of that? I don't remember what we were originally going to call ourselves. It wasn't.
I had a name, I remember, but we didn't go with it.
We were going to call ourselves something. I don't remember what the name was, but we're about to call us that, and I didn't like it. And I was trying to think of some way to kind of incorporate Kentucky because that's where we're all from, where we're all at. And I was like, let's try Southern Kentucky Racing. It didn't really roll off at first, but the more we kind of talked about it, the more we were saying it to each other. We're like, you know what, this kind of has a potential to be something. So we started the TikTok page, posting bits here and there. I personally have no experience editing videos or doing anything like that. And I don't think anybody else aside from you or Jordan that I really knew that had experience doing that. And so it just kind of tried here and there. I was happy with 100 views. I thought we were hot shit with 100 views because, I don't want to, I guess I'm not trying to disappoint myself with, having these high expectations and not reaching them right off the bat. Trying to make sure, as a group, hey, if we had 100 views, that's awesome. That's 100 more views than what we had yesterday. Small goals just to keep kind of building ourselves forward.
And that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, it is. Because if you try to start, expecting all these huge numbers and all these expectations, then you're just going to let yourself down and get discouraged. If you go in wanting less, you'll get more every time. I mean, it's like now, I mean, you guys are sitting on, one of your videos has 110,000 on its own. I mean, you guys have this page is just really taken off, and it's just shown that you didn't let anything, like, there's no discouragement there, because it's just, I mean, it's just what the bio says. It's just some text with keys. I mean, we're not, you guys aren't trying to hit it famous or do nothing crazy.
I mean, not right now. Like, I think, like, our end goal at the end of the day is we wanted to stay kind of true to ourselves, realistically. I know most of us, I think the main end goal, and I think I can comfortably speak for all of us as part of SKR, is we just want to get to the point where if this is generating a source of income, that we could potentially, get our own shop open and maybe try to be a real speed shop. Maybe, start specializing in something, because each of us at SKR, we know something. We specialize in something more than the other person. Jordan is phenomenal with LS engines, aside from his Camaro. There's, certain aspects. Tyler's phenomenal with Coyotes. I love doing transmissions. We got people that are good with electrical. We have people that are good with diesel. There's a good variety of things that we all specialize in that is unique to a shop.
Right.
Could even have a machine shop in it.
Even that.
All in one.
And that's, all hypothetical. Would love to achieve that. I'm not going to say I doubt it's going to happen, but I'm optimistic that if keeping the momentum that we have, that we'll maybe one day achieve it. Be something like Cletus.
I think it's possible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's only uphill from there, because, speaking from experience, a lot of my favorite content to consume is guys working in a shop. I mean, it's just techs. That's all it is. I mean, I watch, you look at Dave's Auto Center. I mean, he started out just being a repair shop, and now he's got a machine shop incorporated into his repair shop, and he's got this big, huge following. He's so entertaining and so humble, and he's good to his workers. That's just that's such a good form of content to consume. It's just like he's living the dream, and it just kind of sets a goal and a good standard for what to aspire to be.
100% agree, and that's something I hope we can achieve. With Jordan, I do think it's possible. It's just kind of right now I know in January we have a meeting coming up that I want to sit down with SKR and kind of, I want to address a couple things. I want to figure out our plans for 2025 as to, we all have several projects going on. I plan on filming all of that, posting bits and pieces of it to TikTok, but I know we're kind of wanting to start a YouTube and branch out there. We're trying to have kind of a spot in all forms of media. So we have our TikTok, we have Instagram, backup TikTok, what do I call it? Lemonade.
Yeah.
Not doing big on there. I think it's more. It's not big. The car scene's not big on Lemonade, and so I feel like it's an untapped resource that I'm trying to get big on.
Fair enough.
I'm just trying to get our name out there to where we're heard and we can make ourselves present and just keep growing. And I'd love for the end of the year to be able to go to PRI with you guys under SKR. I think that's our goal for the end of 2025.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of business connections to be made there. I mean, everybody's there to talk. I mean, we saw quite a few people in the industry. I mean, I ran into Doug Cook last year. I saw Kyle from 1320 this year in passing. I didn't really realize it was him till I seen in a video what he was wearing. I was like, oh, that was Kyle from 1320. I mean, everybody who's anybody is there at PRI. So, I mean, it's a great place to make connections and just have really serious conversations with these companies. I mean, we made a few connections, and I mean, I'm still talking to some people that we met back then. I mean, it's quite a huge event to really boost your standing and really make yourself known in the automotive industry. And I feel like that would be huge for SKR, just kind of broadening the reach outside of Southern Kentucky.
Right.
Maybe one day SKR could have a build in PRI.
That would be very cool.
That would be awesome. I had a manager that I used to work with at Discount Tire before I started at Ford. I don't know if you've heard of Young and Boosted, but it's pretty sure it's owned by Sam Walsh. He got big and he has his own booth at PRI. And so that was somebody I used to work with, and I was like, if he can do it, there's got to be some way, somehow I can get to this level and just keep pushing as a group.
Absolutely. Yeah, it helps having a group. That leads me to another question I had. I understand that, we have the guys in SKR and we showcase a lot of our own builds on there, but I was kind of wondering if there was like if you were going to branch out to like explore other people in the area's builds, that might not necessarily be a part of SKR, but like hey man, we're at Cars and Coffee, we see like a boosted, or maybe we'll just say a ZR1. Like, would that be something you would like make a post about? Like, hey man, I got this ZR1 owner here, cool car, whatever.
Absolutely, I'd love to be able to showcase some of these awesome builds down here in Southern Kentucky, because I feel like Bowling Green as a whole and just down here, I don't feel it's nearly as organized as what it could be for the car scene. We have a very untapped resource that it could be as big as Houston. We could have a phenomenal car scene down here. And it's just, I feel like it's being squandered right now. And I'd love to be able to, get some following behind our name to where we can showcase some of other people's builds, help them grow. At the end of the day, I don't want, the car scene shouldn't be one where we're putting down other people. It needs to be
build each other up.
We're all here to build each other up. I'm not going to say respect all builds by any means, but we're here to build each other up.
Yeah, I think and me and Jordan talk about it a lot. That's kind of the problem in our area. We are in a pinnacle area for cars. I mean, we are in Vet City, for God's sakes. But the biggest issue me and Jordan run into with our, the guys that are our age is just the amount of toxicity that's in and I mean, I'm not talking about not respecting builds. I'm just talking about like, my car is so much faster than yours. And like, it's just crazy. Like, yeah, cool. You make a lot of power, but like, don't be like just, waving it off like that. It's just annoying to an extent. It's just the worst kind of guy the guy that's on the top. And that's just all he talks about is how he's got the fastest. It's just there's more to it than just horsepower, dude.
I 100% agree. I don't care if your Volkswagen Beetle is the slowest car there. I think it's my first like classic car was a '69 Beetle, and I absolutely love that thing. I got a soft spot for air cooled Volkswagen. I love that they're slow. It's to the degree it's like a Miata. It's better because of how slow it is.
Yeah,
it's more fun. And there's just that uniqueness to it. I'm no better than the next guy necessarily wanting to have a fast car, and I think it's cool to have that friendly competitiveness to it. But at the end of the day, I don't care how you build your car, and you shouldn't care how I build mine. Just as long as you like it and I like mine, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of want to spin off that question with one of our questions we got from Snapchat. Does SKR plan on doing any car meets this upcoming year?
I think we've talked about that.
I would love to do that. I know that's one thing I want to discuss at this upcoming meeting is how we're going to go about that. I'd love to be able to host some out in Glasgow and over at Barren River Lake. I think there's a lot of good potential to kind of grow and branch about that. Would love to have some in Bowling Green. I'm planning on talking with Greenwood Ford and potentially trying to have one there to kind of help, promote business there and maybe get in some more people, because I think that's another resource that can be tapped into, not only for SKR, but the dealership to help them grow and branch out to, the local community.
Yeah, I definitely think that they could do better about that too, for being honest.
It's at the end of the day, it's a good dealer. We have so much potential to grow, and I don't think they necessarily know how to. And I'm not saying we do by any means, but I think we have good ideas that are not, it's not going to hurt to try it.
Yeah, I agree. How's it going to hurt to have a little pop-up show? Like Tyler and David talked about going to Ford Fest for years now. I think that's always been a good option they could try.
They don't realize how fortunate they are to like have a racetrack in our town. Like, what is the next closest racetrack? Like Nashville? Like it's so key that we have a town with a drag strip. Like that is insane. Like a lot of people that listen to our show comment and like, oh my God, you guys are so lucky. I drive this many miles to go LS Fest, or I drive this many miles to go to my local or to my closest track. And it's it's what really gets brushed under. Like we really are fortunate to be in the area we are.
I agree, and it once again it all comes down to it's all untapped resource, and it's overlooked.
Yeah, it made me kind of upset. Whenever we went to Indiana, I talked to them online, some of the guys from the Indy car scene, and it really seems like they're just one ginormous car family, and it's just like it's like you said, it's so untapped, and there really needs to be a group that's wholesome, that's not toxic, that really needs to move into Bowling Green and bring everybody together under like an umbrella of, hey, we're all like-minded car enthusiasts. I don't like your VQ, but I respect that you like your VQ and that you're a car guy. So, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Honestly, Indiana is very much the car scene up there. You know, it's a little toxic. I've ran into a bit of toxicity up there, but dude, you roll up on somebody with a cambered out Civic, and they'd still be willing to do a pull with you on 465. Like everybody up there,
Yes, sir.
everybody up there down to clown on the interstate, have a little bit of fun. It's very embracive up there. You're going to have some bad apples, but for the majority of it, up there is very well coordinated.
Yeah, that's really what it seemed like. It just seemed like it was a very inclusive car community. It's just like, bring whatever you got. We're here for you. I'm just kind of hoping that we can get something like that here in Bowling Green, that way, because it just seems like all these different groups have meets. Like, there's a like local Bowling Green car culture group. They have a small meets every now and again. Of course, Zach Wyatt has small meets every now and again. And then I will say Bowling Green Cars and Coffee does get pretty good turnouts. I would say it is the bigger one of all the stuff that happens locally, but I feel like there could be something that could be bigger that happens like at evenings, or maybe something just like Cars and Coffee, but something alongside it. I feel like that.
I think we need the nighttime meets.
Exactly. Not everybody wants to roll out of bed at 7 in the morning and you freeze their tails off to look at some cars. We need night meets. That's whenever it goes down is nighttime.
Dude, I remember me and Tyler when I first got my car and Tyler first got his. We'd mob out, and it just seemed like the first 2 to 3 years we owned our cars, it was night meets all the time, and it's kind of went away, and I miss it.
Definitely.
One thing I know SKR, we kind of talked about, because we did discuss trying to host some night meets, is potentially trying to tap in with Rusty's, the local kind of dive bar around here, having a little pop-up meets there, just because I personally think that'd be a phenomenal spot to have some good meets, get some good food. You got Barren River Lake to overview. You got the scenery from the bridge. I think it's a very good spot to have a dinner with cars to a degree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's a really chill spot.
I wish we had like 7-Elevens around here, because I know they like to, have car. They had that one day last year or the year before. They had car meets at all their locations. Like, that was cool.
Right.
I know Zach is doing at Raging Axe or Flipping Axe, whatever it's called, and I know they're meat friendly, because they had a huge after meet at LS Fest, or after LS Fest, dude. They had a burnout contest and everything. I think Zach White said bring your Bernies to his meet, so they seem to be very down to party there at Raging Axe. So we might need to hit those guys up.
I'd love to.
That's right in the heart of Bowling Green too, I believe. I think they're somewhere near the south side, but I mean they're still pretty close in town. It's not like the outskirts or nothing.
Right.
Yeah, I was really hoping that you guys would have some sort of a meet this year so we can get everybody together. Hopefully have some builds ready. Hopefully me and Jordan can get our Camaros back before spring. Fingers crossed. He said
I don't know, Jordan. I think you need to take a different route and do a turbo 4.8 just to kind of get the Camaro by for now.
I'll die before a 4.8 ends up in my car.
But I try to do little small meets just from Greenwood Ford. Whenever we would all go to Rusty's to eat, all of us just pulling up there. I thought that was a good thing for a little bit. It gave me Fast and Furious vibes. It
gave me some.
Yeah.
did this just because we were mobbing down 65. We went up to Buc-ee's at Smiths Grove. We all had, most of us had radios, so we were all communicating back and forth. And
Yes,
then
sir.
we all just pulled up to Buc-ee, or
The siren.
the sirens on it. The one night of Rusty's, though, I won't forget, it was whenever we had Hurricane Helene come through there, and it was just torrential downfall.
I think that was the one I went to you guys with. Yeah.
You went to, and you pulled out. I pulled out right behind you, and you just pedaled to the floor in Camaro, and it looked like you just crab walked the entire length of the bridge.
Those 315s were spinning.
I was impressed. I was a little worried you're going to lose it and just put it into the wall. I was like, oh, please no, please no.
Dude, me and you like burn that road up too much. If there's one road I'm not wrecking on, it ain't going to be 31 or 87. I can just about take those turns. Like, there was this road that connected Smiths Grove and MCR, and I swear the first time I rode the road with Jordan, I'm like, all right, I'm dying. Jordan takes like 90-degree turns going like 50, 60 miles an hour. I'm like, dear God. I need like a Recaro to like hug me because I'm like sliding all over the place in this OEM seats.
Hey,
That's the way I feel at 87
you can hold
sometimes.
I love tearing up 87 in the Mustang.
Oh God, it's so much fun.
My favorite's on the bike, but I could never really push the bike on 87 because I was always worried it was gonna slide out from underneath me because I had my oil leak coming from my stator cover.
Oh God.
I was worried it was just going to hit my back tire, and I was done.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, that time on that road you were talking about, Josh, that I ran from the police, they didn't know that road like I did.
In Minecraft.
And
yeah,
what?
You read from the cops in Minecraft just in case there's,
Oh yeah, this was in Minecraft, by the way.
But yeah, there's this guy that lives kind of close to the end of 87, and he used to stand out in his yard quite often, him and his kids. And dude, I swear, every time I was in my Camaro, he wanted me to obliterate my tires. I did one time, and every single time after that, he's like, "Kill them tires." I'm like, I can't; they're too expensive. So when I was on these, it was like $1,000 to buy 2 tires.
God,
20s
That's
are
how
expensive.
much mine are.
Yeah, those Nitto R2 315s like $800, a little bit more than $800 for a two.
They're like $950.
Oh, they went up then. I'm glad I'm on 17s now. I'm saving like $200.
Man, one thing I do wish and I do aspire to is to have my car built like yours and Jordan's car.
My car ain't built.
Well, it's about
got a good trans.
Yeah, it's got a good trans.
My Mustang is stock. I got a GT350 intake, and the exhaust is removed with a 91 tune. It is stock.
That's Isaac. He don't have factory muffler.
No,
I don't have nothing. Isaac, like me, he got tube.
Hey, that's where I'm at. I got tube on the Mustang, tube on the truck, and I got tube on the bike.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
Me and Isaac might be related after all. I mean, we do look like.
But I've told Jordan, with you and with both of you guys going boosted, me and Tyler have been talking, and we were like, they can't be the only ones boosted. So me and Tyler kind of gone back and forth. Tyler's saying, he's like, if you think I'm better than refinancing my house to go boosted, I'm not.
Oh my God, that sounds like Tyler.
I was like, if you don't go boosted, I was like, I'm about to have some loans paid off at the start of this new year. I was like, I'll pull out another loan just to build my car. I was like, I don't care. I told Jordan I was about to be sponsored by a firm.
Got Wells Fargo. That's my buddy with a Ford Ranger. He is 100% sponsored by Wells Fargo. He might as well get a sticker on the back of his back glass.
I'm sponsored by eating roosters and fast food every week.
Yes, sir. There's one guy I really want to get. hopefully you get some of his stuff on Soki Speed. I just posted some of his stuff on TikTok, but he's got I mean, he's the most genuine guy ever. You could sit there and tell him that his build is the worst thing on the planet, be like, oh man, I'm sorry you feel that way. Like, he is just like, you cannot. This is like the most genuine dude on the planet, but he's got a Chevy SS. It's got a Blueprint 427, and he's hanging a 94 millimeter turbo, 96 millimeter turbo in that thing.
Well, hell yeah.
And that intercooler is the size of like 3 small radiators put together.
It's huge.
It is ginormous.
I know on Jared's Super Duty, very start of the year, he'll be doing the build on his truck.
Oh man, we're about to have everybody got their stuff under the knife.
He's about to have a little bit of power to the wheels. Jared's going bigger turbo, bigger injectors. He's doing some other stuff to it, I thought. But I think he's ballparking 700, 800 horse.
And like 1200 torque.
I told him it's going to be 50-50 if his transmission will handle it or not.
Oh God. Well, that's the thing about transmissions. You just gotta find out.
Well, Tyler's MT82 has been finding out for a long time.
Ain't that the truth? That thing is a miracle.
Man, we've talked about, because I bought Luke's carbon fiber drive shaft off of him because he went to a Tremec swap on his Mustang. So I got his carbon fiber drive shaft for my car, and he still has his old MT82 out of his car. And I'm working out a deal with him because I want to tear that transmission apart, build it, and then swap my transmission out for that built MT82. Because I'm kind of stubborn like Tyler. I'm going to stick with the MT82 even though it's got its issues.
Yeah, I feel like Tyler's. You open it up, you're gonna let the magic out.
I 100% agree. We go back and he talked about whenever I was building mine, he wanted to build his, and then he was like, "Well, he's like, I'm fearful if we take mine apart, it's going to lose everything."
At this point, Tyler just needs to like donate his transmission after he blows it up and just be like, yeah, this thing lasted enough abuse of like 10 lifetimes. I want it to be like dissected to figure out why it lasted so long.
His car lives on Redline. It should not be alive.
It should not be alive.
Back to Get Rag so they can figure out how to actually
Yeah. They finally made a good MT82. They need to like duplicate Tyler's transmission, and they will forever be the best trans ever walked out of Ford.
I think so, honestly, because the MT82s that were in the Coyote S197s, they were, it was kind of a 50-50% failure rate. You either got one that was good for 700 horse, or you got one that couldn't handle factory power. There was no in between.
Jeez.
And then the S5Ts, I genuinely believe they were made with glass, because just one poorly timed shift and the transmission's done. So it was more like a 25% success rate. And then you got Tyler's, which is in that 1%, where it's, lift shift the entire time it's been off the production line. And it's somehow, going good. He had one time that he thought he blew out third gear driving back from Roosters, because he gave it hell.
Of course.
It no longer wanted to go into third gear. He limped it back to the shop, shut it off, turned it back on, and he was able to get all the gears out of it. And he was like, I'll just drive it. I'll drive it harder whenever I'm taking it home. He goes, I gotta let it know who's in charge.
My God,
that's literally how I do my car.
He sent me the video of him just no lift 3-4, no lift 4-5.
I have to show it who's in charge. Jesus. Tyler is just like, his car hates to see him coming. Like, if it sees Tyler clenching the keys, it's just like, oh no.
When Tyler had some rough times these past couple months, and I feared for his car. I made the mistake of riding with him.
Oh, no.
I don't scare in a car. I get excited whenever we're, participating in felony activities. We were coming back, and if we're coming back from Roosters, there's a turn right before Ford where they're constructing these apartments. Jordan does a slight pull, and Tyler chases after him. I'm like, okay, Tyler, no lifts, second to third, and, third gear, you probably should let off before this turn. We're coming up on this turn at Mock Jesus.
Oh my God.
I'm like, all right, he's about to slow down and brake. He no lifts it into fourth and is still pulling. And I'm like, oh
Jeez.
no. I'm like, oh no, this is just where we die. Like I fully just I let go of the seats and I just sat there. I kind of accepted. There's nothing I could do. We were either just going to slam it, and that was just the end of it, or Tyler was just going to melt these brakes, throwing it into this turn. Well, he melted the brakes. I'm impressed with his car. I'll give his car credit. It handles like it's on rails, but I think that was the major time I've ever been worried in Tyler's car. And anymore, when I go to Tyler's car, I make sure he's in a good mood before I go
Oh
to.
my God. I'm sure Tyler's car wishes he was in a good mood too.
I think it does. I hate to see that car when Tyler gets a little bit of money to put towards it as far as boost and some other, user happy mods.
Tyler's car will become a casket. It's just a matter of when he'll be buried in it. Well, we're just about out of time. I want to go ahead and thank you, of course, Isaac, for coming on to the show. And guys, if you haven't already, we've talked about it, but definitely head on over to SKR270 on TikTok. Give them a follow. We're definitely going to try to get this TikTok off and get this group off, and we're gonna blow it up.
Like the bathroom at Ford.
Appreciate it.
1:30, it's gonna blow up. Like the bathroom at Ford around 1:30 is gonna blow up.
Oh my God.
That's awful.
Yeah, again, Isaac, thanks so much for coming on the show. And guys, like I said, go check them out. And with that being said, we will catch you guys in the next one.